I'm Musty Hobbit, and there's nothing that a hobbit loves more than another helping of second breakfast, so welcome back. Today we're going to talk all about my trip over this weekend, up to Canada, to the Barrie Game Exchange, and to see a ton of people from the Cartridge Club. I want to go into some detail about what I had the opportunity to do, some of the people I got to meet. I also have a bunch of listener questions, some being a little on the silly side, some actually looking for kind of my thoughts on my trip and what it is that I got to experience. Normally I would start off an episode and we'd talk about what I'm playing, which is a whole lot of nothing over the past week. What I've been watching, about the same, aside from Game of Thrones. And I guess other than that, there hasn't been a whole lot more other than this trip, which was significant. I left very early Friday morning. And if any of you were paying attention to Twitter, you realized that this was the morning where my phone ringer decided to be at minimal volume, and so I almost messed this whole thing up. I had set my alarm for 4 a.m. I needed to be on the road before 6 because I wanted to get to the Q-Dog's house, or the Q-Dog's parents' house, when we were ready to go, which was between like 8:30 and 9. Funny enough, I have a hard time getting to sleep the night before, just out of excitement, as I think a few people were feeling the same. And I come to turn over, look out the window, and I see sunlight. When you're supposed to wake up at 4, sunlight is not a good thing. So I looked at my phone and it was almost 6 o'clock, and I freaked out for a minute. Then I realized that I'm not catching a plane. Let's just get things on the road. Let's get moving. And so got going, got there, made good time, really good time, and was able to get on the road a little bit later than we expected, but some of that was just us getting mobilized and ready to go. It was a decent car ride up. It was me, both Mighty Q-Dog and Mrs. Q-Dog, and it's Rocket Sauce in the car for 9.5 hours or so, and it was a lot of fun. I'll go into some of the car stuff in just a moment here. On the way up, though, we got the chance. We stopped on the way. Our path took us right past Diego Avila, and Diego is a Latino lawyer. He is another Cartridge Club member. We got to meet and have basically just a little late lunch with him, so it was really good to get to see him. I know it would have been nice to be able to throw him in the back of the rental car and take him up with us, but alas, that did not happen. But Diego, it was great to get to meet you, even if only briefly. I'm sure this won't be the last time. And I think I'll be saying that for just about everyone that I met here. I plan on seeing you again, hopefully sometime soon, if not most definitely next year. We're talking Cartridge Con, or CC Chicago, or whatever we want to call it. I am so excited for that event, and my excitement's only bolstered by the fact that this trip was amazing. So some of the things that we talked about in the car, there was a fair amount of movie quoting, some movies that I have not seen. There was a lot of Seinfeld quotes, which is again something that I have not seen. Big revelation there. So one of my questions came from Mrs. Q-Dog, who said, when are you going to start watching Seinfeld? There may be a quiz in October. So I will plan to start watching Seinfeld sometime soon. I cannot promise how far I will get along, although the recommendation was that I start in season 3. If you agree with that, or if you have any suggestions on how I attack that show, please let me know in the comments. That will be helpful in letting me know what I need to do to get through that. Another thing that kind of came as a surprise to me was that we realized that It's Rocket Sauce likes to spontaneously break into song. And he actually was performing a number of different songs along our trip. I think my favorite, and this is a question from Mighty Q-Dog, was, which was your favorite? And I would say that my favorite, although again I only know the context because it was explained to me, but he was singing George's Answering Machine song, which is based on the Greatest American Hero theme music, and he just sort of would break into that from time to time. I think I enjoyed that one the most. Thought it was pretty comical. As far as the ride up, the border crossing going into Canada was not bad. We could kind of see the mind games that Border Patrol will play with you. They will vary from stern to your best friend to stern again to your best friend, and constantly kind of keep you off guard. They asked us the same questions a couple of times to make sure our story didn't change, but it worked. We got across the border just fine. When we brought up video games, he actually knew what he was talking about, and he brought up like Super Nintendo and the cartridge based stuff. And yeah, we had to explain what our club was, which trying to do that while talking to a Border Patrol agent is interesting, but we got it done. We stopped just over the border and found that there are gas stations that are closed on a Friday night in the early evening. That was weird. So we hit up our first Tim Hortons, got some Timbits, which I'm familiar with calling them donut holes. One of the questions that Diego had asked was, were there any phrases that locals use that you didn't understand? And I think this was probably the biggest one, was Timbits. One of the things that we had to acclimate to relatively quickly, and we figured out how to change the speedometer on the rental car, but that transition from kilometers from miles per hour. Now, I didn't do any of the driving, considering I had a 3-hour drive to get to the start of our trip and a 3-hour drive at the end. Mighty Q Dog took a majority of the driving responsibilities, so I do want to say thank you for doing that, and thank you for letting me off the hook for having to do any driving this weekend. It's not often that I get to take a trip out of town or out of state and not have to majorly contribute to driving, so it was kind of nice. As a consolation, I played navigator and did, I think, a relatively good job getting us around. That transition, I think, was a little bit weird at first, because when you see yourself going 110, you feel like you are going way too fast. But it worked. We did a decent job getting around, and really traffic was not that bad for most of it. We did have to drive through Toronto in some pretty torrential rain. There apparently was a tornado warning just a few miles north of the main highway that we were on. So we heard about that after the fact. But the one things we noticed was that the lane markers there are not very good at night. I'm used to seeing little reflectors that sort of denote the lane breaks. Was none of that. It was just paint on the road, and in the dark, that is not exactly in the dark and in the rain, that's not really the best way to accomplish things. As far as, I guess, the ride up, I think it was overall pretty uneventful. We had a good time just sort of chatting, and we recorded some things, and on the way up, not on mine, so I won't be including anything there. And I just want to point out my intent. You always have intentions. My intention was to do a fair amount of filming, even if it was just pictures video at the show, or video of our hijinks over the weekend, and that really didn't happen. There was such an abundance of people to meet and to talk to and to just sort of be around, that being in a viewfinder, being behind a camera just was kind of took a back seat, and I really kind of passed on it. It means that I don't have much for you with regards to footage. There are a ton of people who were posting a ton of pictures, and I know that there are going to be people who are going to be putting out event highlight reels. I will let you go to them for that. I really was just taking in this whole experience. So we got to the house, and we did an Airbnb in Newmarket from a host named Bob. And the house, at first we got there, and we came to the realization that all of us had missed the fact that there was not a TV in the listing. And so we jokingly said to each other, well, I guess we're going to have to talk to each other. I think in the long run, this was a blessing because it was important that we got to just talk. Miles and Catherine from Flock of Nerds, and Julian Vega, who's also from the States, he had flown up earlier that day, arrived a little bit after us, and we basically spent, they got there maybe 10:30. We went and we grabbed a quick bite, and then came back and we just sat and talked. And when we realized that suddenly it was 3 in the morning and that our breakfast was going to be upon us in just a matter of a couple of hours, we called it a night, which is probably a good idea. And I think that was kind of a theme for the weekend. It was such a packed weekend that sleep was just something that we chose to ignore. And I'm regretting the lack of sleep a little bit now. I've been trying to recover. I know that others likely were as well. I would say that total across the entire weekend, I maybe got a total of 10 hours of sleep, which was probably not the best idea. But I had a blast, and I wouldn't trade those sleep hours for the experiences that I got to have, not one bit. On Saturday, we woke up early, we all got ready, and then both Kevin and Sarah from Buried on Mars and Sarka Sim came over. They met us and took us out to a nice breakfast place called Cosmos, which was extremely good. I was very pleased with that. That breakfast hit a ton of spots. The sausage links they had were just amazing. One of the strange things that we saw on the menu, something that I didn't expect, for one, they offered you the option of what were like American fries or like home style fries, or either fresh or grilled tomato, which was an interesting angle. I'm not used to being offered a tomato with breakfast. However, I went with the fries, and it was, as I said, extremely good. One of the weirdest things on the menu, though, was pea meal, which, as I understand, is I guess to me is Canadian bacon that's sort of tossed in flour and seemingly not necessarily deep fried, but maybe pan fried a little bit. I didn't have this, but just something about the term pea meal was kind of off-putting. I think it would have been just fine. I ended up having a big breakfast there, which was really, really good. After that, we hit up at Value Village. Now, if you wanted to see pickups, I actually released my pickup video yesterday. If you want to go check that out, it's a little bit long, but that's only because of the stuff that I took home. There was quite an abundance of things. So go check that out if you are interested. But I did go to a Value Village. We hit up a local shop called Microplay, and then we were off to Joe's place, and Joe from STC Pod was nice enough to host a little pool party for the out-of-towners, and so we got to go there, and that's where the meeting of people beyond those that were staying with us in the house really picked up. And to Joe, I just want to say thank you for letting us into your home, thank you for having us over, and thank you for being such a great host. The pool is magnificent. It was perfect for what I needed to kind of relax a little bit and to just sort of enjoy myself. And so thank you there. We got to just kind of hang out there, grilled out. It was fantastic. So thank you. It was great. From there, we headed to Dave & Buster's in Vaughan, Canada, and much like the Dave & Buster's in the States, it is basically an arcade with a restaurant, and you can kind of buy a combo deal that gets you unlimited gaming and food and things like that. So we did a little bit of both. Got to meet more people, and it was just. There was just so much fun had. One of the things that I got to do was give people the chance to experience the Star Wars Battle Pod for the first time. And Canadian Retro asked me, if I could sell, could sell a majority of my collection to get the arcade game Star Wars Battle Pod in here, would I do it? And the answer, without a doubt, is absolutely yes. I would liquidate things if I had a chance to pick up one of those. that arcade machine is just amazing. And I realize that it's only 6 or 7 levels. They actually added a level since the last time I've played, which is promising that they may just kind of continue to feed this thing additional content. And that was one of the levels from Force Awakens, which was really cool. It was the scene with the X-Wings over the lagoon. It was just awesome, and if you have not experienced the Star Wars Battle Pod, you need to experience it. It is such a great machine. It is a lot of fun. After Dave and Buster's, we actually headed up to Barrie to go to Bill's house. Bill from STC Pod also had us over, and he also had us over again after the swap on Sunday. So again, to Bill, thank you for opening your home to us. Thank you for letting us come over. And again, we sort of ran into that thing where we just wanted to keep talking and just wanted to stay up and around these people. And we realized again that it was getting super late and had to drive the 40 minutes or so back to the house we were at from Barrie. So we did that. The big thing on Sunday was the Barrie Game Exchange itself. Now Miles and Catherine were vending, so they headed up early. So we were planning, we were going to go to Hot Stacks. It was a recommended breakfast place for us, but we ended up kind of delaying ourselves a little bit too much, and all of a sudden we realized it was 10 o'clock. VIP gets in at 11, and we weren't out the door yet. So stopping for breakfast was really not going to happen. We made it to the show, we got in early, and I'm really impressed with the venue selection. So the Barrie Game Exchange was in kind of a big hockey arena on the rink itself, minus the ice, of course. Although I joked with Hodge that it would be funny if you'd actually left the ice up and forced people to kind of fend for themselves. Maybe some other year. But the show was great. The vendor selection was very good, and there was a nice assortment of new and old and everything in between. I kind of stayed really focused and told myself I want to collect all the Tengen games today, and that was my big push, was to just really look at that, which made hunting a lot easier than it normally would be, because when you're looking for those black cartridges among all the NES cartridges, it makes it super easy to kind of quickly peruse somebody's inventory without having to check all the labels. So that's what I did. I am super happy with everything I came home with. The show in general was awesome. We got a great picture of everyone who was there. I believe we almost got to 30 club members in one place at one time, which is just something that I never thought I would see, and it was a great thing to experience. A couple of the questions that came in from two different people, Retro Revolution and Canadian Retro, both said, did you see anyone at the swap with comparable or better hair than you? And I think the only person there who was close is J-Rock. And I got to meet J-Rock too, which was just awesome. We missed you, buddy. And I'm glad that you were able to make it out, and I'm glad I got to meet you in person. So much of this show was kind of based on Between a Rock and a Hard Place, which I marathoned when I first joined the club because I kind of wanted to get caught up on everybody's where everyone was at. So there is some flavor of that here. I hope that you get to enjoy this as much as I enjoyed that show. One of the other questions that came in from Canadian Retro was, did the measly price of the Canadian peso make game hunting easier or cheaper? And I'm going to say easier, not because of the monetary difference, but because I knew that if I saw a price that I would be comfortable paying in US dollars, I knew I was getting a deal, at least like 25% off of what I was expecting to pay, or what I would expect to pay Canadian. So in that aspect, I think it did work out well. I didn't have to worry about, if I felt like it was a bad price, a really bad price in US dollars, then I most certainly, in some cases, it actually would probably about break even. It did make it a little easier for me. I kind of liked having to deal with that. The last question that I want to answer is from Catherine at Flock of Nerds. Her question was, what was your favorite beer, cooler, cider that you tried? Now, I grazed a lot when it came to what I was drinking when I was there. There was this one thing that I had. It was the first thing I drank when we got to Joe's place. It was this like pink lemonade cooler drink, and the name escapes me, but it was really quite good, and it was very refreshing, and I liked that the most. So I know that, Catherine, I know you were hoping for one thing. Miles, I know you were hoping for another. I have to say that neither of those two are that. I really dug that kind of change of pace from beer once in a while. It was quite good. So after the event, like I said, we went back to Bill's, watched Game of Thrones, got a chance to just talk with a lot of people, and I don't know. I mean, at this point, the trip itself was. I guess I just want to kind of sum up my thoughts on the whole trip. I needed this vacation really badly, just from work and from just the busyness of summer and things like that. So it was a nice break. It was a nice chance to be around people who I am very attached to when it comes to interactions. I enjoy your guys's presence on Twitter and on YouTube and all of those things, and just taking away that portal of a screen and just being able to be around you in person was so special, and I get the feeling that I'm not the only one who felt this way. The feeling of this trip is going to be hard to replicate, and I want to try to. I really hope that if I can't do this Canada trip every year, maybe every other year, if there's a chance to see you guys at other events in the area, whether it be Midwest, whether it be this Chicago thing that we're looking at for next year, if people are able to go to Portland, or other conventions in the area, I don't think I'm ever going to pass up that opportunity if it's financially responsible for me to do so. I enjoyed every minute of this trip, and it's part of the reason why I didn't want to sleep. It's part of the reason why we were just go, is because we got to see so many friends and so many people that, and I'm proud to call you all friends. And I think that the club has done one thing, is it's shifted from being about the games to being about us, and I can only thank P1, P2. You guys created something special here, and I really hope that everyone else sees that as well. And I hope that we can do this again soon, and if we can top it, I think we should make every effort to top it every single time we get the chance. So anyways, at risk of getting dust in everyone's eyes or my own, I think I'm going to stop there. Again, so I'm sorry I didn't have any footage for you. I'm sorry that I really only have pictures with some people that I really only started taking pictures late. But I had so much fun, and I wouldn't have passed it up. I said to my wife, if I could do it again this weekend, I would. But we all know that we need to go back to reality once in a while, and work for the purpose of working. And so I'm doing that, and I am looking forward to the next big adventure, which I hope is going to be Portland. I'm going to do everything in my power to make that happen, because even these conventions now are more than just the game hunting. I did a lot of that, but in the process at Barrie, Canadian Retro, you were a huge help, and I really enjoyed walking around the show floor with you, helping me find these Tengen games, and talking to some of the vendors that you had familiarity with that I didn't. It was a blast. So I really hope that everyone else had an experience that was quite on this level. I'm glad I made it home safe, and I look forward to doing this again. You know what? Leave me a comment and tell me about your experience. And did you enjoy this? And I I would hope that your answer is yes. But you know, and for those of you who weren't there, let us know what would be a good event for you, right? When can we do this again? When can we do this and have you involved? Because it was just an unreal experience. So I'm gonna leave you there. Please like the video if you did, and if you found me just on a happenstance and want to subscribe, please do. I look forward to seeing you all of you again at the next second breakfast, which will happen next week. We'll come up with a true topic this time. The last couple ones have been really focused on this vacation, so this one will be a little more back to form. But anyways, I have been Musty. Take care of yourself. Be good to each other.